My wife slapped me during a fight, then said, "Go cry to your mom." So I did. Then I moved out, froze the accounts, and sent her a legal bill for every dollar I paid into the house. 3 days later, she called me sobbing. "My name's Ethan. I'm 32. Been married 6 years." I was staring at the side of her face when it happened. Her sister was sitting at the kitchen island. I was across from both of them, standing by the fridge, asking why $1,900 disappeared from our joint account that morning. The atmosphere was cold, tense, like the air just knew something ugly was coming. And then she did it. Out of nowhere. She slapped me. Not in private. Not in a heated argument where emotions boil over. But in front of her sister. With a flick of the wrist, like I was a child she was disciplining. And then, she laughed. A dry, sharp little laugh. Followed by the words that would echo in my head for days. "Go cry to your mom. Maybe she'll give you your balls back." That line hit harder than her palm ever could. There was a second of silence. Then her sister turned away awkwardly, pretending to check her phone like she hadn't just witnessed a slow-motion emotional assassination. I didn't move. I didn't yell. I looked at my wife's face, her expression unreadable, and I realized something. She wasn't angry. She was done respecting me. Let's rewind a little. I met Melissa at a work seminar when we were both 26. She worked in PR loud, confident. She had a sharp tongue, but it was charming back then. Funny, flirtatious. Everyone wanted her attention, and somehow, she picked me. I was the steady one. Reliable. The guy who always followed up, paid on time, fixed the Wi-Fi, and knew which months to renew the car registration. I handled things. She floated. I loved her anyway. When we moved in together, she insisted on putting the house in her name, since her credit score was slightly better. I didn't argue. I was raised to pick my battles. I covered the down payment anyway, $35,000 wired from my savings, while she added $5,000 from her dad's birthday gift. At the time, I thought we were partners. Looking back, I was building the house. She was claiming the title. The past year had been hard. I'd taken on more hours at work. We were renovating the kitchen, her dream kitchen, with custom marble counters and imported tile backsplashes she found on Pinterest. I worked double shifts and handled the contractors because she got overwhelmed with spreadsheets. And now here we were, standing in that same kitchen, where she slapped me across the face for questioning a missing $1,900. The same kitchen I bled to build. I walked out. Just walked. She didn't follow. Didn't ask where I was going. I drove to my mom's place. It was a quiet 40-minute drive. The kind of drive where every tree, every light pole blurs past your window, and you feel like a ghost just watching your own life unravel. When my mom opened the door, she blinked twice. I hadn't shown up unannounced in years. She looked at my face, saw the red mark, and just said, "Tell me everything." So I did. For the first time in 6 years, I told someone the whole truth. Melissa had a way of making me question myself. A few weeks earlier, I came home and the thermostat was set to 81 degrees in the middle of summer. I asked about it, and she laughed and said I always had to be in control. Then she made a joke about me, mansplaining air conditioning. Every disagreement became a joke at my expense. Every concern, an attack on her freedom. She'd make snide comments in front of her friends. "Ethan's allergic to spontaneity. He probably schedules his bathroom breaks." I used to laugh along, pretend it didn't bother me, but it chipped away at something. Quietly. Now, I sat across from my mother, and the pieces started connecting. She listened carefully, without judgment, without saying, "I told you so." When I finished, she leaned back and said, "You taught her how to treat you. Now you have to unteach her." That hit me harder than anything Melissa ever said. I slept in my childhood bedroom that night. The next morning, I opened my laptop and logged into our joint accounts. That's when I saw it. Not just the missing $1,900, but a string of smaller transactions I hadn't noticed before. $300 dinners, $500 shopping sprees, Venmo transfers labeled, "Just for fun, red heart." My hands went cold. My chest tightened, not from rage, from calculation. This wasn't about one fight. This was a pattern. I was the workhorse, the wallet, the guy who got laughed at, slapped, and still paid the bills. I pulled out a notebook, wrote 2 columns, money in and money out. Down payment, $35,000. Monthly mortgage contributions, $1,600 x 58 months equals $92,800. Renovations, $13,200. Utilities, groceries, subscriptions in my name, $2,000/month x 5 years equals $120,000 plus. Vacations I paid for. Don't even get me started. She put in maybe 20%. Maybe. And then she hit me, mocked me, watched me walk out like I was nothing. I called my friend Josh. He's a divorce attorney. I told him everything, without dramatics, without exaggeration. He paused and said, "You've got more leverage than you think. Want to make a move?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. That's when it started. I froze the joint account, flagged every credit card she had access to, stopped all autopays. Melissa didn't even notice yet. She thought she'd won, and that was fine with me, because the real revenge wasn't a punch. It wasn't yelling or getting even. It was subtraction, removing myself from her equation and letting her watch the numbers vanish. 3 days. That's how long it took for her to notice. I had frozen the joint accounts, disabled her access to my cards, and rerouted my paycheck into a personal checking account under a new bank. I even moved my emergency savings out of our shared financial space. Everything was now cleanly divided, and she had no clue, because Melissa never checked balances. She just swiped. She was used to money appearing, bills vanishing, and upgrades being just handled. That's how our whole marriage worked. I managed reality, so she could float through fantasy. And I let her. But not anymore. The morning she found out, I was still at my mom's house. I hadn't spoken to Melissa since I left, aside from one short text letting her know I was taking time to think. At exactly 11:13 a.m., she called. I didn't pick up. She called again. Then I got a text. "Hey, weird thing, my card declined at the salon. Is the account acting up?" Followed by another. "I'm kinda embarrassed. Can you check? I'm getting lunch with Taylor and need to pay." There it was. The panic creeping in. I stared at the screen. Thought about the 3 times she mocked me for ordering the cheap wine. The day she spent $700 on self-care while I stressed about paying for roof repairs. I didn't reply. At 3:02 p.m., the email started. Subject: legal invoice, shared property contributions. From my attorney's firm. Inside was a carefully outlined document, professionally formatted, detailing every cent I had poured into the property. It wasn't a demand, it was a claim. Backed by receipts, dates, transfers, tax records. Total value of my contributions over 6 years. $167,344.13. The invoice included a notice that, due to the financial inequity and physical altercation, we were seeking either a buyout or forced sale of the property. That night, she finally called from her sister's number. I answered. "Are you insane?" Her voice cracked with something between disbelief and rage. "What the hell is this crap about a legal claim? We're not even getting divorced." I let the silence stretch. Then I said, "You slapped me. Then told me to go cry to my mom." I did. And now I'm thinking clearer than I have in years. There was a pause. Then her tone changed. "Ethan, come on. That was one fight. You're not really going to throw our marriage away over this." I didn't laugh, but something in me smiled. I threw away nothing. I just picked up what I dropped a long time ago, my self-respect. She tried to shift tactics. "Do you have any idea what people are going to say if you take me to court over our house?" I did. They'd say I finally grew a spine. That I stopped being a doormat with a debit card. I said, "If they ask, I'll show them the invoice. I've got nothing to hide." She hung up. The next 48 hours were chaos. On her end, not mine. Melissa messaged my mom, trying to check on me. She called Josh's office pretending to be my assistant. She even emailed one of my coworkers, asking if I was going through something. I wasn't. I was going through her. And that meant finally seeing clearly what I'd been living in. A marriage where respect was a currency she stopped paying long ago. On the 3rd day, she sent one final message. "Can we please talk? No lawyers. Just us." I stared at the screen, then wrote back. "You slapped me in the house I paid for and told me to run to my mommy." I did. And now the adult version of me is responding. That evening, she came to my mom's house. Unannounced. I saw her through the window, standing by her car, arms crossed like she was working up a speech. My mom opened the door, didn't even look surprised. Melissa's first words were a rehearsed whisper. "I never meant to hit you." I was frustrated. That wasn't okay. Then came the tears. And then the twist of the knife. "But freezing our accounts? Trying to sue me? That's abuse, Ethan. Emotional abuse." She really said that. She hit me, mocked me, leeched off me for years, and now I was the abuser? That's when I stepped in front of the door. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You can call it abuse. I call it math. Check the invoice." Then I shut the door. She stood outside for another 10 minutes. I watched from the upstairs window as she sat on the curb, staring at her phone like it would suddenly give her back everything she'd lost. It didn't. By day 5, Melissa realized I wasn't bluffing. The frozen accounts weren't temporary. The invoice wasn't a scare tactic. And her usual tricks, tears, blame shifting, guilt, were useless outside her home turf, especially when she no longer controlled the money. So she moved to phase 2, the sympathy campaign. She texted her parents first, then her sister, then mutual friends, spun a story about how I'd abandoned her during a fight, and was now trying to financially punish her because I couldn't handle being challenged. What she didn't know was, I'd already spoken to every single one of them. Let me explain. The moment I decided to call the lawyer, I also decided to stop protecting her image. For years, I'd smiled through her digs in public, brushed off her disrespect, made excuses when people whispered things like, "Man, she's intense," or "Is everything okay between you two?" I would nod, pretend we were just passionate. But now I told the truth. Not in a messy, angry way. I didn't vent or gossip. I just calmly told her parents that their daughter slapped me across the face, laughed, told me to go cry to my mom, and then tried to access funds she never contributed to. I told them I'd paid over $160K into the home she was claiming sole ownership of. Her mom, to her credit, went dead silent, then said, "That's not what she told us at all." Her dad muttered something I'll never forget. I warned her not to lose a good man by acting like she's single. A few hours later, Melissa called again. I picked up. Her voice was trembling, but not with sadness. With fury. "You called my parents?" I didn't answer that. "You embarrassed me in front of my family, Ethan. Do you get off on that?" Still, I said nothing. "You always needed people to see you as the victim. It's pathetic." Then came the dagger she thought would break me. "You know what your mom told me once? That you were sensitive. That you take things too personally. That I'd have to handle you with care." That silence. It was her mistake. Because I wasn't quiet out of fear. I was listening and documenting. Melissa kept spiraling. She sent a 10-paragraph email outlining all the things she sacrificed in our marriage. Claimed she had every right to spend money on herself because she supported me emotionally. Said the slap wasn't abuse because it was reactionary, and that I should know the difference between harm and frustration. Then, she made a mistake. She sent screenshots of my invoice to 2 of her friends and mocked it. Called it Ethan's pity portfolio. Laughed about how I counted Netflix as a household contribution. But she accidentally CC'd one of my friends. Kevin. Kevin sent the screenshots straight to me. I sent them straight to my lawyer. That same day, she texted, "Why are you doing this? I don't deserve this kind of treatment." To which I replied, "It's not treatment. It's math." Same answer. Every time. Like clockwork. That weekend, I got an unexpected call from her sister. The same one who sat silently in our kitchen the day Melissa slapped me. She asked to meet. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop halfway between my mom's house and theirs. I didn't know what to expect. She ordered tea. No makeup. No filters. Just sat down and said. I should have said something that day. I stayed quiet. She's been like this since college. Always needing to win. Always needing to make someone feel small so she feels big. Then she pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. It was a video. I didn't know she had recorded it. The slap. The laugh. The exact words. "Go cry to your mom. Maybe she'll give you your balls back." Crystal clear. From across the kitchen island. I looked up at her sister. She just said, "If she takes this to court, you'll need it." I sent the clip to my attorney that night. He responded within 2 minutes. "We're no longer negotiating. We're going to war." Melissa must have felt the ground shifting under her feet, because by Monday morning, she did something she hadn't done in months. She apologized. It came in the form of a carefully crafted message, clearly reviewed by someone older or more cautious. Maybe her mom, maybe a therapist. I've had time to reflect, and I realize how hurtful my words and actions were. What I did was wrong. I should have never laid a hand on you, and I'm deeply sorry. I want to work through this. Can we talk? Just us, no lawyers. The first 3 sentences were everything I'd waited years to hear. The 4th was where she lost me. I showed the message to my lawyer. His response was fast, curt, and surgical. They always apologize right before you win. That same afternoon, we filed the petition to partition the property. That's legal talk for forcing the sale of the house when co-owners can't agree. Since I had proof of major financial contributions, plus evidence of verbal and physical abuse, we had more than enough ground to argue a forced sale or monetary compensation. The timing couldn't have been worse for her. She'd just put in a non-refundable deposit for a kitchen remodel expansion, all funded by me, before I walked. That night, Melissa called again. I answered. Her tone had changed. No more anger. No sarcasm. Just this slow, syrupy calm. I think we both said things we regret. I didn't speak. And maybe we both overreacted. This doesn't have to get ugly, Ethan. Think about what we've built. I finally said. I built it. You just posed for photos in it. Silence. Then, you really want to throw away 6 years over one slap? I could have said 100 things, but I just replied, no, I'm throwing it away because you meant it. The next day, I got a call from her father. He sounded tired, like someone who hadn't slept well in weeks. He said, I raised her to be strong. I didn't realize she turned it into cruelty. Then he paused and added, if it comes to court, I'll testify. You were always the steady one, Ethan. I didn't know how to respond. By now, the news had spread through our mutual circles. Melissa's image, carefully curated over years, was cracking. Friends who once took her side started texting me quietly. One wrote, "I always wondered how you stayed so calm with her. I thought you just didn't care. Now I get it." And another, "Dude, that video? Brutal. No one can defend that." I didn't reply to most of them. This wasn't about winning a popularity contest. It was about cutting the final cord. Then came the check-in meeting. Mediation round 1. Both legal teams. Us on opposite sides of the table. She showed up in a beige suit and red lipstick, playing the part of the mature wife trying to fix things. Her lawyer opened with an offer. Melissa would agree to remove my name from future mortgage obligations if I dropped the financial claim. That was laughable. She wanted me to disappear with nothing. So I slid a folder across the table. Inside, the itemized invoice, all receipts, screenshots of the mocking texts, the video, and a letter from her own father supporting my claims. Her eyes scanned the packet, then froze. Her lawyer asked to pause the meeting. They left the room for 10 minutes. When they came back, the entire tone had changed. Melissa's lawyer sat down and said, "We'll be willing to negotiate a buyout for your share of the property at fair market value, plus restitution for contributions to renovations and utilities." That's legal speak for, "We surrender. Let's not make this worse." I looked at Melissa. She wouldn't meet my eyes. But just before we left the room, she whispered, "I never thought you'd really leave." I didn't whisper back. I spoke clearly, for everyone to hear. "You told me to go cry to my mom. So I did. And now she's helping me sell the house you thought you owned." 2 weeks after mediation, the house went up for sale. The same house she once claimed was her domain. The same one I built room by room, hour by hour, paycheck by paycheck, now listed online like any other piece of property. Just like that, her castle had a price tag and a countdown. Melissa stalled at first, dragged her feet, tried to slow the listing process by needing more time to emotionally detach. But her delay tactics didn't work anymore. Not with court orders involved. My lawyer filed the motion to compel, and that was it. Within 10 days, we had offers. A young couple came for a viewing. Melissa gave them a fake smile and offered lemonade. What they didn't know was that she was standing in a space entirely funded by the man she slapped, mocked, and thought would crawl back. That man was now negotiating a $94,000 payout from the equity, his half, based on contributions, renovations, and a legal claim she never saw coming. She texted me the night before the final paperwork was signed. "I know we're ending things, but I still thought we'd at least be kind. This feels like you're trying to destroy me." That's when I realized she never once saw this as a partnership. She saw herself as the main character, the one with the sob story, the misunderstood wife with the clueless husband. She never thought I'd flip the script. So I sent her one final message. "You wrote this story the day you raised your hand. I just gave it an ending." The sale went through. She walked away with her half, barely, and I walked away with more than money. I walked away with proof. Proof that dignity doesn't come from yelling or slamming doors or matching someone's cruelty. It comes from cutting off the supply and watching them shrink. A few days later, her sister called me. She wasn't checking in for Melissa's sake. She just had something to say. "You were the only one who ever held her accountable," she told me. That scared her more than losing the house. I moved into a new apartment the next week. It was smaller, plainer, no granite counters or fancy cabinets. But it was peaceful. No fights, no mockery, no walking on eggshells, just silence and space. Then came the twist I didn't expect. I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. Inside, 2 sentences. "You'll never find someone who puts up with you the way I did. You think this is a win, but you'll be back." I folded it, put it away. That night, I lit a match, watched it turn to ash over my sink, and went to bed smiling. It had been 6 weeks since we closed on the house. 6 weeks since I cut the last financial tie. 6 weeks since I reclaimed my name from a marriage that had slowly been choking the life out of it. I had expected some peace. What I didn't expect was her unraveling. It started small. A text here, a "hope you're okay" message there. Then came the fake emergencies. One night she called twice in a row and left a voicemail. "I think someone's been watching the house. You always knew what to do about stuff like this. Can you just call me?" There was no stalker, no emergency, just a woman who lost control of the one person who always made her feel in control. She tried showing up at my gym. She never lifted weights in her life, but there she was, suddenly interested in squats. Then she started following a few of my female coworkers on Instagram. One of them asked me, "Do you know this woman? She keeps liking photos from 2019. Melissa wasn't reaching out for reconciliation. She was reaching out to remind me that she still existed, still had power, Still thought she could tug on the old strings and expect a dance. She was wrong. Then came the real stunt. My birthday. I hadn't heard from her in 2 weeks. Thought maybe, finally, she'd moved on. But nope. At 8:07 a.m., a delivery truck pulled into my parking lot. I opened the door to a box the size of a small cooler. Inside, a leather-bound photo album. Page 1 was a printed picture of our wedding. Page 2, our old dog. Page 3, the house we just sold. Each photo had a handwritten caption underneath, like a script she hoped I'd follow. We were happy here. You used to say I was your piece. This was ours. Why did you give it away? At the very back, in the inside sleeve, was a Polaroid I didn't recognize. Her, sitting on the front porch of our old house. Head in her hands. Like a stage play. Like a scene she wanted me to believe. She wrote on the bottom, "You'll remember what you lost. You always do." I didn't rage. I didn't call. I went for a walk. Halfway down the street, I ran into my neighbor, Mr. Dorsey. Retired. Old school. Used to wave to me when I'd mow the lawn at the old place. He said, "Heard the house sold. Good for you. Honestly, we used to worry about you." I asked why. He looked me straight in the face and said, "Because we never heard her laugh at your jokes. Just laugh at you." That afternoon, I took a photo. Me, standing in my new apartment. Unpacked. Clean. Calm. Holding a mug that read, "Paid in full." I sent it to her. No message. No caption. Just a new image. One she hadn't seen before. A man she didn't recognize. A version of me that no longer required her permission to breathe. That was the last time she reached out. I never blocked her. I didn't have to. She finally understood. I wasn't a chapter she could return to. I was the book she didn't know how to finish. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.